to do anything with our committees here, especially when we indicted the IMC for embezzling 4.9 billion naira, so-called COVID relief. So we suspended any interaction with the IMC, and of course the IMC is out of the way now. So we are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. On one hand, and you have admitted that much, we have the people of the Niger Delta with all the challenges there of life. On another hand, we have a sole administrator who is unknown to the law. My opinion about this is, first, the people themselves at this point. And I don't think it will serve the people any good to say that we should not allow the implementation of the capital, because the capital is what goes to the people. The recurrent are things that the people in the headquarters and elsewhere, the civil servants, will just be using. So if we say there should be no implementation of the capital, then the people remain unattended to and unfairly treated, in my opinion. So I believe that we need to balance this. We pass the budget, and then we task our fairly treated, in my opinion, on Nddc to ensure that every kobo is properly, prudently, and economically applied. Secondly, we have been engaging with the executive arm of government for the nominations to be made for the governing board. We have been doing that. We'll continue to put in a lot of effort to ensure that within the shortest possible time, we get the nominations so that the Nddc Act will be properly and fully complied with. I think we have to approach it in this multi-pronged way so that the people don't lose because of the politics that is going on. But I want to assure you that we will not rest on our oars until we get the proper thing done. So I believe that this Senate has done the kind of thing it was supposed to do in the engagement with the Nddc throughout this period up to this time. So we'll go to the recommendations. In view of the foregoing, and we're on page 4 of 11 of the report. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends as follows. 1, that the revenue profile for the commission for the year 2020 is as follows. That is 12 billion. A, revenue brought forward A is 12 billion. B, federal government contribution 63 billion 506 million 151,945 naira. C, federal government contribution, that is unpaid arrears by federal government, 0. D, all companies contributions and Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Limited, NLNG, and others, 317 billion 493 million 848,055 naira. E, ecological funds 60 billion. F, other internally realized income 200 million. Total revenue 453 billion 200 million. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. Recommendation 2. The committee considered increase in personnel costs and also considered the overheads and internal capital estimates, as well as the adjustments in the revenue profile of the commission, and consequently recommends the following as expenditure profile. Personnel expenditure 27 billion 389 million naira. Overhead expenditure 13 billion 937 million 244,107 naira. Internal capital expenditure 2 billion 793 million 755,8 893 naira. Development projects 409 billion 80 million naira. Total expenditure 453 billion 200 million. Those in favor that recommendation 2 be approved say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. And recommendation 3 that the lifespan of the 2020 NDDC budget will elapse on 31st March 2021. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Let me re-emphasize here that our committee on Niger Delta should sit up and ensure that these funds are properly utilized. The committee has done a good job in the past. I'm sure that it will continue with that. And where's the chairman? Anyway, I'm not going to ask you that question. Maybe I should ask the 2021 budget for the NDDC. Yes, Senator Dixon. Do you know where it is?
Okay. No, Mr. President, I wanted to crave your indulgence to say that yes, you have ruled, and I agree from what I said earlier too, that we need to consider the budget for the sake of the people, as you rightly said. What I'm rising to propose, Mr. President, is that this Senate at this point, having now agreed to pass the budget, and if we pass it, can we take a motion to the effect that the President be called upon to constitute the board in accordance with the Act without further delay, and that this budget be passed for the sake of the development and the well-being and welfare of the people? Can we do?
I think you have made the point. Even without a motion, you have already stated this and it's recorded. And I have said this, we have been engaging with the state arm of government that the names, the nominees, the nominations, you may sit down please, the nominations into the governing board should be made. We have been making that point and we will continue to push until it is made. I think we are getting there. So even if we don't take any motion, I'm sure the explanations you have given and what we have been saying will go a long way in waking up everyone who thinks that the one man, what do you call it, sole administrator should be there for a long time. I don't think the sole administrator should be there for any long period of time. But it's for us to ensure that between now and when that sole administrator will go, that the funds appropriated are properly utilized. It's not a good situation, but we just have to make the best use of where we find ourselves. Thank you. So the budget 2021 for NDDC should be presented to us as quickly as possible because we want to streamline the implementation of all the budgets, whether it's for the MDS or for an agency like the NDDC, with the main budget of the country. That is starting from January 2021, budget implementation for that year should start. We believe that that makes a lot of sense and it helps the economy as well as the people. So we want to urge the executive to ensure that they present the budget for NDDC for 2021. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee of Appropriations on the 2021 Appropriation Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Thursday, 15th October 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Barrow Jibrin, before you make your presentation, how many of the copies do we have? The printed...
Sir, the ones we have been given to the distinguished senators. I don't have the count here, but more have been brought. They have been brought by the printers. So before we leave,
Make sure before we conclude today's plenary, every senator gets his or her copy of the details of the budget, please. Okay, Senator Barrow Jibrin, make a...
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to move before this august Senate that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2021 Appropriation Bill 2020 SB 523. Mr. President, I so move.
Hello, distinguished Senator Princess Stella Odwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Stella Adeze Odwa and I represent Anambra North. Mr. President, I want to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Appropriation on 2021 Appropriation Bill 2020 SB 223. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2021 Appropriation Bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Please, you may lead the report. Chairman, you may present the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand before this august Senate to present the report of the Senate Committee on Appropriations on the 2021 Appropriation Bill. Introduction. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may recall that our joint sitting of the National Assembly held on Thursday, 8th October 2020, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, presented the 2021 Appropriation Bill to the National Assembly. The 2021 budget, christened Budget of Economic Recovery and Resilience, aimed at accelerating the pace of Nigerian economic recovery, promote economic diversification, enhance competitiveness, and ensure social inclusion. The budget contained estimates of revenue and expenditure in the aggregate sum of 13 trillion 82 billion 420 million 568,233 naira only. This sum, as you are aware, was made up of the figures or the amount stated in the report before you. Number two, legislative action. The Senate debated on the general principle of the bill in 3 legislative days, read it a second time, and consequently refer same to the Committee on Appropriations for further legislative action on Thursday, the 15th of October 2020. In the desire of the Senate and House of Representatives counterpart to fast-track the passage of the bill, the two chambers met and developed timetable and guidelines that will advance work on the bill. In addition, the committee, after consultations with the Senate leadership on the developed timetable and guidelines, held an interactive meeting with chairmen of the subcommittees. The timetable, guidelines, and schedule for budget defense and submission of reports were equally presented to them. They were enjoined to adhere strictly to the work plan for the budget defense submission of their reports so as to ensure timely completion of the exercise. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I wish to state that budget defense and submission of reports by the subcommittees was scheduled for 7 days, spanning from Wednesday 11th to Wednesday 18 November 2020. However, this was later extended by another 7 days. That was Thursday 19 to Friday 27 November 2020. Due to the delay by some subcommittees to submit their harmonized reports to the committee. This delay to a large extent was caused due to the volume of work that the subcommittees had to contend with during the budget defense by the various MDAs and the subsequent analysis and reconciliation of their reports with their counterparts in the House of Representatives. There was also delayed receipt of spending requests by the executive for the scaling up of the National Social Investment Program, NSIP, amounting to 365 billion naira. Revenue assertion for the 2020 appropriation bill. In preparing this budget report, the committee was guided by the revenue parameters approved by the National Assembly when it considered the medium-term expenditure framework through fiscal strategy paper, FSP, as demonstrated below in the table below. I don't need to read those facts that are there before you. Observation. The committee, while processing the bill, observed and noted the following. A, that the impact of COVID-19 pandemic has negatively affected virtually every aspect of life. Businesses, individuals, and government, especially revenue accruals to the government. B, there is a remarkable increase in Nigeria's oil price, which is hovering between $47 and $50 per barrel in the international market. This is above the benchmark price of $40 per barrel approved by the National Assembly. $50 per barrel. C, in the discovery of under projection of the total revenue to the tune of 100 billion. D, the need to enhance the structure of the budget to allow for the reflation of the economy in order to accelerate the process of taking out the economy from its current state of recession. E, the dire need for optimal allocation and judicious utilization of the scarce resources available for economic recovery, diversification, enhancements of competitiveness, and ensuring social inclusion. Number 5, prayer and recommendation. In view of the increasing global oil prices beyond the benchmark of $40, the executive may wish to submit a supplementary appropriation bill whenever it deems fit, in order to further, it's omitted here, to further fund critical areas that will help to accelerate the movement of our economy out of its current state of recession. Number 2, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, having thoroughly examined the reports and recommendations of the appropriation subcommittees on the schedules of the 2020 appropriation bill, the committee hereby recommends that the Senate do consider and approve a bill from the Act to authorize the issue for the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 13,588,027,700,000 886,175 naira only, of which 496 billion 528 million 471,273 naira only is for statutory transfers. 3 trillion 324 billion 380 million naira only is for debt service. 5 trillion 641 billion 970 million 60,680 naira only is for recurrent expenditure, while the sum of 4 trillion 125 billion 149 million 344,222 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on 31st December 2021. Conclusion. On behalf of the Representation Committee, I respectfully wish to thank the President of the Senate and the entire Senate leadership for the support given to the committee in processing this bill. I also want to thank and appreciate the cooperation and understanding of the Appropriations subcommittees who work assiduously and submitted their reports after rigorous budget defense activities. Mr. President, thank you, and I so submit.
Comment, Senator Princess Stella Adaze Odua.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Stella Adeze Odua, and I represent Anambra North. Mr. President, clearly this budget was well intended and well articulated, to the extent that the budget paid particular attention to poverty alleviation, to ensure that the stage where we are today is far better than what it ought to be. And in doing that also, the budget paid particular attention to the security sector and health sector. Mr. President, as we all know, our infrastructural decay has been on the increase. And so this budget was very emphatic in addressing that deficiency. Mr. President, this budget, for a change, was very focused on people's welfare, and that was much prioritized. And huge emphasis, Mr. President, was made to ensure that the new normal, which is the global situation today, that ours is being addressed. So we'll be in tandem with the global best practice when it comes to new normal. And so, Mr. President, I'm very much impressed with the way and how emphatic this budget has addressed our problems. And so I want to support and to urge my dear colleagues that we do pass this budget. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Gabriel Susan.
Mr. President, I'm Dr. Susan Benue Northeast. Mr. President, why I support the passage of the 2021 budget, I want to make a critical observation, Mr. President. And I want the chairman of Committee on Appropriations to listen to the observation. Mr. President, he has presented a very concise, straightforward report which we all support. Something is left out conspicuously, Mr. President. The deficit level of the budget is not here. I've looked at the recommendations, I've looked at the highlight, there's nothing on deficit. And that is a very critical part of the budget. The deficit level and what the financing item are for the deficit level. I thought that when you are giving the highlights of a budget, and in the explanation, some remarks must be made on the level of deficit. It's not captured here. So I don't know whether the chairman is an oversight or there's something he needs to explain that we do not know. Otherwise, Mr. President, I think this budget or there's something unanimously passed. He needs to explain that we do not know. Otherwise, Mr. President, I think this budget or there's something unanimously passed. He needs to explain that we do not know. Otherwise, Mr. President, I think this
the 2021 appropriation bill, as just enumerated by the chairman of the appropriation committee, I think is coming at the right time, especially with the challenges of this country. Looking at what has been appropriated to Ministry of Defense, I believe that the armed forces, all they need, and most of what they will need, has been considered in this budget. And if there is no security in this country, the whole of this budget is as good as nothing. So this is a challenge to the armed forces of this country that we at National Assembly will have done the needful. We must design a way to protect lives and properties. This Appropriation Act also have considered the youth. If you have seen what has been done to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, if you have seen what has been done to the Nigerian police, there is need for this country to stabilize in the area of security. So I will want to commend the National Assembly for taking this most important aspect of our national life to budget and appropriate such huge amount of money to the Ministry of Defense, which is in line with our desires that this country is supposed to be safe. Mr. President, 2021, we believe and we pray that it should be different from 2020, which has been very challenging. Because anything that happens to one part of your body, the whole body feels the pains. What is happening in my constituency and what is happening in the northern part of this country, there is need for serious oversight on all activities that covers security. I don't want us to continue believing that the armed forces cannot be audited. There must be checks in their spendings. If we do that, we will see the needed change. But if we leave it business as usual, the security lapses will continue. Somebody must be held responsible for what has been allocated to their ministry and for the spendings they will do. This is my contribution, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, this is not second reading of this bill. So please, can we go to the Committee of Supply to consider this thing? Because it's not second reading. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for this distinguished chamber to resolve into the Committee of Supply in order to consider the report on the budget.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do resolve into Committee of Supply to consider the 2021 appropriation bill.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of Supply to consider the report of our Committee on Appropriations, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, we start on page 3 of our report. Page 3, the schedule. Revenues, so Schedule A, Schedule Part A, share of Federation revenues. That's on page 3. Federal government share of main pool, federal government share of VAT pool. Total share of Federation revenues 3 trillion 502 billion 592,658,607 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part B, independent revenues, tax revenues, non-tax revenues, operating surplus. Total independent revenues 961 billion 898,590,939 naira only. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part C, aid and grants. Foreign aid stroke grants in cash 354 billion 852,661,650 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part D on page 5. Special levies, accounts, transfers to CRF, CDF. Special levies, special accounts, total special levies stroke accounts 300 billion naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part E, government-owned enterprises. Government-owned enterprises, government-owned enterprises operating surplus 80% of which is captured in independent revenue. Total gross revenue net of operating surplus of 1,348,837,107,916 naira only. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part F, others. Dividend, NLNG, signature bonus renewals, domestic recoveries, plus assets, plus fines, stamp duty. Total of others amounting to 1,418,231,556,785 naira. Those in favor of the distance part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part G, statutory transfers. Statutory transfers, National Judicial Council, Niger Delta Development Commission, Universal Basic Education, National Assembly Management, Senate, House of Representatives, National Assembly Service Commission, Legislative Aids, PAC Senate, PAC House of Representatives, General Service, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Service-wide votes, Office of the Retired Clerks and Permanent Secretaries, Public Complaints Commission, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, National Human Rights Commission, Northeast Development Commission, Basic Health Care Fund, total statutory transfers amounting to 496,528,471,273 naira. Those in favor of this transfer to the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part H, debt service, domestic debts, foreign debts, subtotal amounting to 3,124,380,000,000 naira. Those in favor of this transfer to the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Sinking fund to retire mature loans of 200 billion. Those in favor of this transfer to the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The total debt service of 3,324,380,000,000 naira. Those in favor of this transfer to the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part 1, recurrent non-debt expenditure, executive, presidency, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Interior, Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, Office of the National Security Advisor, Infrastructure Concessionary Regulatory Commission, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, Federal Ministry of Transport, Federal Ministry of Aviation, Federal Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Justice, Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Environment, National Population Commission, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. This amounts to subtotal for the executive of 3,361,173,906,215 naira. Those in favor that this transfer to the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. For the executive bodies, Code of Conduct Bureau, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Federal Character Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. This subtotal of federal executive bodies is 11,169,441,816 naira. Those in favor of the distance part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Government-owned enterprises amounting to 1,13,243,726,659 naira only. Those in favor of the distance part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Pension, gratuities and retirees benefits, total allocation, Office of the Head of Civil Service, civilian pension, gratuities, pensions, pension running cost, military pensions and gratuities consist a total of 186,748,405 naira 1,100. I'll take that again. Military pensions and gratuities, DMP, totaling 186,748,405,159 naira, consisting of pensions, expected retirees, death benefits, administrative charges, running cost, pension running cost, medical retirees. Those in favor of this part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. NHIS military retirees totaling 8,571,846,329 naira, consisting of NHIS military retirees arrears 2014 to 2018, NHIS military retirees including arrears. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. DIA civilian staff pension and gratuities totaling 507,225,684 naira, consisting of pension, gratuities, administrative charges, including verification. Those in favor of the distance part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Police pensions and gratuities, a total of 7,408,000,000 naira, consisting of pensions, pension running costs. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Customs, Immigration and Prisons Pension Office, totaling 7,900,000,000, consisting of pensions, pension running costs. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Universities pension including arrears totaling 15,537,657,500 naira. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule comprising of pension say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Parastatals pension and railway pensions totaling 30,502,699,595 naira, consists of just pensions. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Department of State Security, with a total of 12,146,093,389 naira, consisting of pensions including arrears, gratuity, death benefits. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Nigeria Intelligence Agency (NIA), with a total of 9,326,641,130 naira, consisting of pensions, stroke dependents benefits, pension running costs, board establishment. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. NEMCO, totaling 31,292,843,014 naira, consisting of only NEMCO pensions stroke arrears. Those in favor of this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Other pensions amounting to 153,552,872,477 naira, consisting of defunct privatized agencies pension, payment into the redemption fund, pension protection fund, benefits of retired heads of service and permanent secretaries and professors, severance benefits to retired heads of government agencies and parastatals, entitlements of former presidents, stroke heads of states and vice presidents, stroke chief of general staff, payment of outstanding terminal benefits of Nigeria Airways ex-workers. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Other service-wide votes amounting to 752,191,855,311 naira, consisting of payment of outstanding death benefit to civil servants, police, group life assurance for all MDS, including DSS, insurance of sensitive assets, corpus plus administration, monitoring, public service wage adjustment for MDS, including areas of promotion and salary increases and payment of severance benefits and minimum wage related adjustments, military operations, Lafia Dole and other operations of the armed forces, settlement of MDS electricity bills, IPPIS, capturing monitoring, payment for outsourced services, margin for increases in cost and recurrent adjustment cost, Presidential Amnesty Program, reintegration of transformed ex-militants, service-wide training of budget/planning officers on Give Means Budget Preparation System (BPS), as well as monitoring and evaluation of all projects nationwide. Special Intervention Program, recurrent NSIO, contingency, recurrent international sporting competitions, TSA operations, Employee Compensation Act, Employees Compensation Fund, contributions of international organizations, HIV/immunization. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Total CRF charges 1,256,382,985,990 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Total recurrent non-debt 5,641,970,060,680 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule Part J, Capital Expenditure, Executive, Presidency, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Interior, Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, Ministry of Police Affairs, Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, Office of the National Security Advisor, Infrastructure Concessionary Regulatory Commission, Office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, Federal Ministry of Transport, Federal Ministry of Aviation, Federal Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Justice, Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Environment, National Population Commission, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, totaling 2,726,155,229 naira only. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Federal executive bodies, Code of Conduct Bureau, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Federal Character Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, totaling 2,734,766,043 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Government owned enterprises totaling 335,593,381,300 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Capital supplementation, Federal Government Special Intervention Program, Social Housing, Family Homes Fund, Nigeria Youth Investment Fund, counterpart funding for donors supported programs, including Global Fund, payment of local contractors, debt, other liabilities, Galaxy Backbone, Give Means, EPS Capital, OSAP SDGs, SDG Projects 1, OSAP SDGs, SDG Projects 2, OSAP SDGs, SDG Projects 3, OSAP SDGs, SDG Projects 4, recapitalization of development finance institutions, zonal intervention projects, head of civil service, Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board, subscription to shares in international organizations, national development plans, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, capital exigencies, adjustment to capital cost, contingency capital, grants and donor-funded projects, Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, grants to Bank of Industry Boy to support low-interest lending to SMEs, refund for the acquisition of Yola Disco, provision for the refund of 2 tranches of NHIS reductions, refund of borrowed funds from the Education Tax Pool, TED Fund, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILS, National Social Investment Program, totaling 1,060,751,051,650 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Total capital expenditure amounting to 4,125,149,354,222 naira. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Aggregate expenditure 13,588,027,8 886,175 naira only. Those in favor that this stands part of the schedule say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The short title, we go to clauses, sorry. Clauses on page clauses on page 2. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 3 stands part of the bill say no. Sorry, I think clause 1 has 1, 2, 3. Chairman, clause 1 has 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, so I'll take it again. Clause 1 has Roman numerals 1, 2, 3. Clause 1 I'll take all 1, 2, 3 and put one question. Roman clause 1 comprises of the clauses subclause 1, subclause 2, subclause 3. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Then clause 2. Clause 2. Those in favor that clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3. Those in favor that clause 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 4. Those in favor that clause 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Short title. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Long title, which is on page 1. Page 1. Page 1. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Explanatory memorandum on page 15. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move the motion for the chair to report progress. I so move.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate now revert to plenary to report progress on the 2021 appropriation bill. I so second.
Thank you, minority. Those in favor that the Senate reverts to plenary for the chair to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of Supply considered the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2021 Appropriation Bill and approved as follows. Part A, share of Federation revenues as recommended. Part B, independent revenues as recommended. Part C, aid and grants as recommended. Part D, special levies, accounts, transfers to CRF, CDS as recommended. Part E, government-owned enterprises as recommended. Part F, others as recommended. Part G, statutory transfers as recommended. Part H, debt service as recommended. Clauses 1 to 4 as recommended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Short title as recommended. Long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the committee of the whole? Leader of the Senate, third reading.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the 2021 appropriation bill to now be read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second that the 2021 Appropriation Act be now read a third time as so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that 2021 Appropriation Bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act authorized the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 13,588,27,886,175 naira only, of which 496,528,471,273 naira only is for statutory transfers. 3,324,380 naira only is for debt service. 5,641,970,60,680 naira only is for current non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 4,125,149,344,222 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2021, third reading.
A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 13,588,27,886,175 naira only, of which 496,528,471,273 naira only is for statutory transfers. 3,324,380 is for debt service. 5,640,60,680 naira is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 4,125,149,354,222 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2021. Third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Let me first of all congratulate all of us, our committees, for working so hard. I mean the subcommittees of the Appropriations Committee, for working so hard to ensure that we meet the deadline of passing the 2021 budget before we go on Christmas break. We thank God for that. And also thank our Committee on Finance, our Committee on Appropriation for working around the clock, almost in a sort of a detention, for them to ensure that everything is put in place. And we thank all the membership of those two committees. Let me also congratulate the House of Representatives, our counterparts, who are doing the same thing that we are doing here. This is because we are able to work together with them. Our committees work very closely with their committees, and we are able to, as a National Assembly, have the budget 2020 passed in this National Assembly today. Let me also commend the executive, like they did last year, on the instructions of Mr. President, that nobody, no minister or head of agency should travel out of this country without defending the budget of his or her ministry. This year, there was no need to add that proviso because COVID is there to stop everyone from wandering about. But they have also done the needful. They have come to defend the budget estimates of their ministries, departments, and agencies, and this is the way to go. For Nigerians, this budget that has been passed in the National Assembly today is to ensure that the economy is supported fully through public expenditure, because the economy of our country depends largely on public expenditure. The budget extension period for implementation of the 2020, which we did last year, is to ensure that the funds that are available for 2020 are not lost. So there will be two budgets running. Funds from 2021 up to 31st March 2021, and then the implementation of the 2021 budget itself to start from January. That is absolute fight against the recession we are suffering from. And with a projected 3% growth in our GDP in the 2021 budget, we believe that the recession Nigeria is in will be over before the end of the first quarter. I want to urge the executive arm of government, first, to ensure that they implement the 2020 budget that will last up to 31st March. There will be no extension after 31st March. Everyone must be on his toes in the ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure that they implement the budget 2020. And for 2021, we have to do everything and anything possible to ensure that we implement the budget like we tried to do in the 2020 budget. I believe that the economy of Nigeria will receive the kind right of boost from the implementation of the two budgets, the extension and the 2021. With this, I want to congratulate everyone once again in the National Assembly. This is one of our contributions to the development of our country, to the development of the economy of Nigeria. Don't look any further to see or find out what the contribution of the National Assembly is to Nigeria. Look at what we are doing. We sacrifice to ensure that our country is fully on the road to ending its recession. Other countries are in deeper recession, and we are likely to come out of recession earlier than most of these countries. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. With this, I want to also say that we have to adjourn for about how many minutes? 30. Okay, we'll adjourn for 30 minutes to enable the Secretariat work on the votes and proceedings, because we have to approve the votes and proceedings for whatever we have done here to have any significance. So after that, we'll then, of course, adjourn until the period that we return. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected distinguished colleagues, I move a motion for this chamber to adjourn for 30 minutes for us to be able to conclude this by considering the votes and proceedings of this particular session. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do adjourn for 30 minutes to enable the Senate come back to approve the votes and proceeding of the sitting. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, we will come back at 12:45. We'll come back at 12:45. That's 1:45. So those in favor that the Senate adjourns for 30 minutes, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned for 30 minutes.